It's over. It's a wrap. Because her entire career rested on this Snow White movie being a success, and it ain't looking good.
I mean, they're projected to lose between $200 and $400 million on this.
We are still in the thick of the culture wars. Oh, have we been following the Snow White?
Actually, the first time hearing of this.
Really?
No. Yeah.
Okay.
Good for you.
Well,
Remember the childhood thrill of hearing Once Upon a Time? Well, Disney just proved even fairy tales can mutate into box office horror stories. Rachel Zegler's live-action Snow White remake, pitched as the next billion-dollar crown jewel, has detonated into the most embarrassing fiasco the Magic Kingdom has suffered in decades.
It is over for Rachel Zegler. Her career is done. She will be lucky if she makes it on a direct-to-DVD Steven Seagal movie at this point.
Theater chains are ghosting the movie, retailers are fire-selling merchandise, and the hashtag number sign Snow White flop is trending harder than any Disney topic since Song of the South got memory hold. How did a property that practically invented animated cinema wind up hemorrhaging cash, goodwill, and brand loyalty in record time? Stick around, because the deeper we dig leaked test screening notes, emergency Bob Iger calls, and a star who torched her own fan base, the clearer it becomes that this isn't just a flop. It's a masterclass in how to burn a legacy to the ground. Hit subscribe, annihilate that like button, and sound off in the comments. Because once you hear the full story, you'll never trust a glossy reboot trailer the same way again.
Look at this, 46%. That's horrible. That's a disaster, bro. That ain't good. You might as well just, you know, I typically say just release this garbage on Disney Plus, but no. I think they should just just forget this. Just try to erase this movie from existence completely at this point.
It started quietly. On a sleepy Thursday morning, theater managers from Atlanta to Anchorage logged into their booking dashboards and saw entire Snow White time slots shaded gray. Low attendance, removed screenings. By lunchtime, more than 400 showings across the U.S. had evaporated. A multiplex in rural Ohio swapped Snow White for a decade-old Saw sequel and still sold more tickets before dusk.
I just mean that it's no longer 1937, and we absolutely wrote a Snow White that is she's not going to be safe with a prince, and she's not going to be dreaming about true love. She's dreaming about becoming the leader she knows she can be.
Snow White is running for president.
I'm launching my campaign. I am.
I don't want to gag myself on the air, so I won't do that. You know what bothers me more than anything about this? These stories are invented by women.
Independent cinemas followed suit, some posting blunt paper signs. Screen pulled due to lack of interest. A veteran manager in Austin told local news, "I've never seen a Disney title belly flop this hard, this fast." Retailers reacted just as brutally. Big box buyers slapped 80% off stickers on ruby red capes and plastic apples. Internal memos leaked. Snow White inventory relabeled NR, non-reorderable, industry shorthand for ship it back, bury it deep. Analysts now project Disney will bleed anywhere from $300 million to $400 million. Once global marketing costs land, that's more than the entire production budget of Dune, blown to pixie dust. Yet empty auditoriums and clearance bins were only the opening number.
Housewives throughout Germany made up these stories, and then the Brothers Grimm went around and collected them and found them. These are the creations of women, and they spoke into the minds of children, and they weren't forcing children to be anything. They were talking about things that children already know are there, like witches and evil and fear and true love. They weren't creating girls who wanted to fall in love. Girls want to fall in love. It's part of the beauty of life.
The internet smelled blood and needed a human target. It found one faster than you can say, mirror, mirror. Because a box office bomb hurts, but a meme apocalypse can vaporize reputations. Within hours, X, formerly Twitter, flooded with photos of deserted auditoriums captioned, 7 tickets sold, 7 dwarfs hired. TikTok creators staged elaborate dances through empty rows, ending with a sarcastic bow to a non-existent crowd. One viral clip panned across 200 vacant seats, zoomed in on the lone viewer, and whispered, fairest failure of them all. Meme pages unleashed carnage. Posters were photoshopped so the dwarfs held help-wanted signs. The evil queen stamped rejected across the Disney castle. Even late-night hosts couldn't resist. Snow White? More like Snow Wrong.
and then they couldn't put dwarfs because this is just so typical of the left. The progressives always finding a way to find their way back to doing something not progressive. You'd think the most progressive thing would be get people jobs, and dwarves want to work.
It's like
An honest
golden employment opportunity for dwarves.
There's not that many scripts that come down the pike.
No, only 7 of them.
That has, and there's 7 dwarf jobs here. But because I think it was Peter Dinklage said this is, this is not right. This is demeaning. And they were like, what? We just want to work. We're dwarves.
But social media mobs don't rage against faceless corporations. They rage against people, and the press tour had already gifted them a perfect lightning rod. Rachel Zegler herself, the actress who, in one disastrous week, detonated 87 years of nostalgia with a single smirk. That's when the story morphed from flop to full-blown culture war firefight. Press junket week should have been simple. Praise Disney magic, gush about childhood dreams, maybe shed a tear over the iconic dress. Instead, Rachel marched onto the red carpet wielding a flamethrower. She called the 1937 classic outdated, branded Prince Charming a stage 5 stalker, and quipped she should be paid an hourly wage every time she wore the gown, public appearances included. Clips ricocheted across socials, trimmed for maximum outrage. Fans heard contempt where Disney hoped for empowerment. Her delivery felt chilly. No playful wink, no reverence, just blunt dismissal of the story that built Walt's empire.
Rachel Zegler spent her energy, her time, leading up to the release of this Snow White movie, shitting on the origin, right? And not to mention that the people that voted for Trump tend to be people that appreciate more wholesome values, traditional values, people that tend to have kids, right? Because that other side, right? The woke weirdos, the lizards, these people, they don't believe in having kids.
Disney's PR squad reportedly choked on their complimentary muffins. Executives prayed audiences would forgive a candid 20-something finding her voice. Spoiler alert, they didn't. By day 3, comment sections ignited. If you hate the role, why sign the contract? Reddit sleuths cataloged every eyebrow raise, every eye roll. Reaction channels slowed interviews to half speed, tallying condescending smirks like penalty flags in the Super Bowl. Overnight, Zegler morphed from breakout darling to the face of Disney's biggest humiliation since John Carter. Still, a star's faux pas alone can't sink a $250 million juggernaut, unless critics and fans unite in disgust. And unite they did, because once the reviews dropped, even Disney loyalists reached for the eject button. Embargo lifted at midnight. Rotten Tomatoes, critics, 24%. Audiences, a savage 9%. IMDb, an eye-watering 1.6 out of 10, lower than some straight-to-VHS talking animal comedies from the 90s.
I think Rachel Zegler probably wants this too. I think Rachel Zegler, she probably wants people to forget about this movie. She wants people to forget this entire experience. She would probably appreciate Disney just making this movie go away.
Critics blasted the film as soulless, a Franken remake stitched together from corporate buzzwords. Fans went nuclear. It feels like a high school play directed by ChatGPT after an all-nighter. Parents reported kids fidgeting, confused why Snow White refused to sing with bluebirds, or apparently smile. Instead of lush, hand-painted charm, audiences got muddy CGI forest companions, a prince erased for consent optics, and Snow herself reimagined as a union organizer for woodland critters. Viewers weren't inspired. They felt lectured by a $250 million PowerPoint. Even normally, apolitical Disney diehards walked out muttering, "Who is this made for?" That question rippled through the industry, and the answer, nobody, landed like a hammer on Disney's balance sheet. But the damage wasn't limited to one film. The legacy itself was bleeding out. Snow White wasn't just Disney's first feature, it was a gamble so wild critics dubbed it Disney's folly before release. Walt mortgaged his house to finish it. The film won an honorary Oscar, plus 7 mini statuettes, and financed Bambi, Fantasia, and eventually Disneyland. Audiences expected a love letter to that heritage. Instead, they got a committee-approved lecture. Dwarfs axed to avoid offense, Prince Charming vaporized for modern sensibilities, and Snow White transformed into a battle-hardened revolutionary who negotiates pay rates with foreigners. forest creatures. Longtime fans felt their childhood memories shredded in a boardroom. Instead of nostalgia, they got hashtags. Even casual moviegoers sensed the disconnect and bounced. The message was clear: tamper with a cornerstone IP, and you better stick the landing, or watch the castle crumble. Back in Burbank, the alarms were now deafening. Insiders whisper that early test screening cards read like disaster forecasts. Confusing, preachy. Who's the audience? Crisis mode Zoom calls stacked hourly. One exec reportedly muttered, "We turned a magic mirror into a TED Talk." Bob Iger, usually unflappable, was said to be visibly livid, blindsided by how thoroughly audiences rejected the film. PR teams drafted apology statements that legal-iced. Marketing scrambled to pivot, cut empowerment slogans, add nostalgic shots. Too late. Morale nosedived so fast, employees nicknamed the project Snow Wrong. Behind closed doors, budget spreadsheets bled red. With reshoots, VFX overages, and ballooning marketing, the true cost crept past $300 million. Accountants warned a write-down could nuke quarterly earnings. Some executives polished resumes, others prepped scapegoats. Meanwhile, desperate higher-ups begged Zegler to tone down her social presence. She doubled down instead, liking snarky memes and retweeting supporters who mocked nostalgia bros. The gulf between star and studio widened into a canyon. And while HQ scrambled, store shelves delivered another gut punch. Disney's merchandising arm is usually an unstoppable cash printer. Not this time. Parents weren't buying, kids weren't asking, collectors smelled clearance. A leaked sales graph showed Snow White dolls ranking below generic fairy princess number 4. Big box chains initiated a pull forward. Corporate speak for send unsold stock back ASAP. Halloween wholesalers panicked. Costumes hit liquidation sites at 85% off before September. Specialty store owners dubbed the line radioactive. One joked, "Even Funko Pops of background Ewoks move faster." For Disney, merchandise failure is a 5-alarm fire. It signals brand trust evaporating. If parents won't shell out $19.99 for a plastic tiara, they sure won't book a $5,000 family vacation to a theme park. And as pallets of unsellable dolls piled up, the actress at the storm's eye faced a decision: retreat or reload. She chose reload, publicly at least. Instead of retreating, Rachel posted behind-the-scenes selfies captioned, "Proud of our progressive princess," liked tweets mocking nostalgia dinosaurs, and ignored pleas for a humble mea culpa. Industry gossip claims Disney considered pulling her from future press, but silencing your lead risks bigger headlines. Each click was weaponized. A single like on a snarky meme triggered 5,000 quote tweets. Neutral observers wondered if Disney's casting vet checked temperament as well as vocal range. Sympathy was scarce. Audiences felt disrespected and demanded contrition, not clapbacks. Privately, sources say Rachel was shaken. Tears, frantic calls with reps, panic attack rumors. But the public saw only defiance, and that widened the gulf. She became both victim and villain, fuel for every culture war pundit looking for ratings. Meanwhile, YouTube commentators churned out hour-long breakdowns. One channel racked up 2 million views, dissecting her entitled body language. Another mapped social media sentiment graphs, concluding she'd alienated 63% of the Disney core demographic in 6 days. Whether those stats were legit or not, the narrative stuck. And then the hard financials landed, turning disaster into catastrophe. Instead of retreating, Rachel posted behind-the-scenes selfies captioned, "Proud of our progressive princess," liked tweets mocking nostalgia dinosaurs, and ignored pleas for a humble mea culpa. Industry gossip claims Disney considered pulling her from future press, but silencing your lead risks bigger headlines. Each click was weaponized. A single like on a snarky meme triggered 5,000 quote tweets. Neutral observers wondered if Disney's casting vet checked temperament as well as vocal range. Sympathy was scarce. Audiences felt disrespected and demanded contrition, not clapbacks. Privately, sources say Rachel was shaken. Tears, frantic calls with reps, panic attack rumors. But the public saw only defiance, and that widened the gulf. She became both victim and villain, fuel for every culture war pundit looking for ratings. Meanwhile, YouTube commentators churned out hour-long breakdowns. One channel racked up 2 million views, dissecting her entitled body language. Another mapped social media sentiment graphs, concluding she'd alienated 63% of the Disney core demographic in 6 days. Whether those stats were legit or not, the narrative stuck, and then the hard financials landed, turning disaster into catastrophe. Opening weekend domestic, $29 million, barely a tenth of production cost. International? Worse. China granted a token release. Europe shrugged. Analysts predicted at least a $260 million write-off. Disney stock slid 5% in after hours, trading the night projections leaked. Theaters slashed showtimes again, creating a doom loop. Fewer screenings, fewer tickets, more headlines about empty seats. By week 3, one multiplex offered Snow White matinees bundled with free popcorn and a soda. Attendance still flatlined. Streaming? Disney Plus insiders whispered the debut would be delayed indefinitely, hoping the uproar cools. Translation: they fear the backlash could trigger subscriber churn. Industry veterans compared the flop to The Lone Ranger and Tomorrowland, but worse, because this one poisoned an evergreen princess brand. One analyst quipped, "At least John Carter didn't ruin Halloween costume sales." Yet the fiasco's ripple effects extended beyond Disney's walls, into Hollywood's entire reboot economy. Snow White's implosion forced Tinseltown to ask the question it's dodged for years. Has the remake conveyor belt finally snapped? Audiences are exhausted, tired of lectures, tired of nostalgia, hijacked for hashtags, tired of scripts that treat story as an afterthought. Conservative outlets blasted woke overreach. Progressive critics decried corporate feminism with no soul. For once, both camps agreed. The film was a checklist masquerading as art. Think pieces flooded Variety, Hollywood Reporter, and indie blogs, all echoing the same warning. Respect your audience or they'll ghost you. Studios quietly reassessed slates. One rival exec leaked that 2 planned princess reimaginings were paused for script adjustments. Translation: nobody wants the next Snow Wrong headline. Meanwhile, disgruntled screenwriters pointed out the obvious. Give us budgets for original ideas instead of remakes nobody asked for. The sentiment trended for a weekend, then vanished, but the seed was planted. Maybe, just maybe, Hollywood had hit reboot saturation. And at the eye of the storm, Rachel faced her own fork in the road. Rachel Zegler now stands before 2 doors. Behind door 1, reinvention. A raw indie film, a humility tour, a late-night apology, and a slow rebuild. Behind door 2, a fade into cautionary tale obscurity, her name a case study in PR misfires. Casting directors are skittish. No one wants promo junkets overshadowed by viral backlash. Agents whisper she needs a vulnerability play, maybe a charity partnership or a brutally honest podcast. There is precedent. Kristen Stewart shed Twilight baggage with art house roles. Robert Downey Jr. rose from ashes to Iron Man, but the internet's memory is elephantine, and one sarcastic tweet can reset the clock to 0. Fan forums speculate she'll pivot to Broadway, where her voice can shine minus social media landmines. Others predict a strategic hiatus, disappear, reemerge wiser. One thing is certain, whatever move she makes will be dissected like a Supreme Court nomination. Meanwhile, Disney's postmortem was already carving lessons in stone. Sources hint at a sweeping content audit, slash live-action remakes by half, funnel resources into original IP, and tighten social media clauses in talent contracts. One internal slide reportedly reads, "Story first, message second, non-negotiable." Another lists Snow Wrong as a critical misalignment of brand and audience. Executives who champion the project may quietly exit after the next earnings call. Rumor mills swirl about a creative quality task force, empowered to kill any script that reeks of corporate sloganeering. Whether that sticks or is just PR perfume remains to be seen. But even the mouse knows it can't survive another $300 million sermon no one asked to attend. Snow White's collapse didn't just hurt wallets. It lit up America's ideological trenches. Right-wing pundits cheered the flop as proof audiences reject wokeness. Left-wing commentators blasted Disney for hollow corporate feminism. Moderates rolled their eyes at both extremes, insisting the real villain was bad storytelling. The movie became a Rorschach test. To some, it symbolized Hollywood's moral decay. To others, it's shallow capitalism. The irony? Both sides agreed on the verdict. Terrible film, epic fail. Rare unity, born from mutual disgust. Disney accidentally built a bridge, made of collective outrage, and that bridge may shape entertainment discourse for years. As studios weigh every script against the Snow White yardstick, will this enchant, or will it preach? Conclusion, a shattered mirror. So here we stand, staring at the shards of a $250 million fairy tale smashed by arrogance, algorithmic storytelling, and the lethal mix of social media and corporate hubris. Theaters deserted, merchandise buried, and a once rising star turned into a meme. Proof that even the Magic Kingdom isn't immune to public fury. The moral: respect the legacy, respect the fans, and never assume a brand is bulletproof. Because once trust cracks, no amount of CGI sparkle can hide the fracture lines. Now it's your turn. Did Snow White flop because of woke, overreach, cynical cash grabs, or plain bad filmmaking? Drop your verdict below, obliterate that like button if you enjoyed the breakdown, and subscribe for the next deep dive, because Hollywood's next disaster is already loading, and we'll be here to unpack every messy frame. Until then, stay curious, stay skeptical, and remember, not every reboot deserves a happily ever after.